Alright, welcome back. So here we are with our tree, and now right now we're gonna learn how to make a set of leaf clusters so we can put leaves on here. First we're gonna make our leaf mesh and make it look good. It sometimes, well, I'll just do it and we'll see. So we're gonna add a plane. And we're just going to pull it up over here so we can see what's going on here. Now we are going to go load an image. Oops. So we don't care about that anymore. So let's go get, say, oh, these oak leaves. This will do. Let's turn off the stretching overlay because it's annoying. Okay, so we have our leaf here. So what we're going to do is take our mesh and we're going to pull the UV down. Well, first we want it to be kind of cut in half because it's going to stretch funny if we use this whole plane. So while we have this in here, let's just go add a loop cut down the middle and get rid of these verts. So now we have this guy here, and we're just going to, let's go into vert selection, and now we're going to make a plane around this leaf. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to go in and cut it out really well anyway. So now we have this guy here, and let's make a material for our leaf. So we'll go into shading, we'll create a new material, we'll call it leaf. Why not? Alright, and then we're going to add an image texture. And once again, we already pulled this in, so we just have to go find it. So we're going to pull up our leaf texture and plug it into the base color. So now we have this leaf here. But what we want to do, so when we render it out, we're going to use transparency to do our whole cluster. But the problem is if we bake our cluster with this plane here, those planes will show up when it bakes through it, so we can't use that. So we're going to go in with the knife tool and make a really complex plane here and cut out all of this. It is going to be an ingon, but we don't care. We're not using it in our end project. We're just using it to bake our texture. So here we have our leaves here. So now I'm just going to get this knife tool. We'll do this in layout. So we're going to go into edit mode. We're going to hit zoom way in, and we're going to hit K to get our knife tool. And then we're just going to go cut out a plane around this basically. And once again, it's game use and zoomed in, so don't be too much of a perfectionist here. It'll look better than you think. I'm cutting all the edges off, the little ridges. It's just, normally I would go in and do it, but right now I'm trying to show you this video and it'll take forever if I go in and do it. So shit. Alright, do that again. We can clean this up in post. Yeah, don't right click, it's super annoying because it'll undo everything you've done. We'll add a little bit of detail to it. Alright. So now we have our mesh cut out, and we are just going to get rid of the verts around the edges. Okay, and now that's not quite lined up, so we are going to select everything and then go look at it in the UV, and we're just going to move it so it fits. Alright, cool. So now we have our mesh here. There's a little bit of black still on it. It's weird. Okay, so now we have this sweet leaf plane. Looks like a pretty good leaf. And so now I'm going to go in and just we're just going to add a few just a little bit more geometry so we can curve up the leaf and stuff. So we're going to make a few of these. So once we have those down, then we're going to go in and edit this. And so, oh, and if you didn't see what I did there, so if you hit O, you see you have this little thing up here. This is called proportional editing, and I turned that on, and what it does is it gives you your cursor an area of influence when you turn it on. So when you edit, it's going to edit the geometry around it. So if I were to grab this vert without proportional editing and move it, then it's just going to move the one vertex. Whereas if I turn on proportional editing and then go to move it, now I have this circle that I can use my scroll wheel to go up and down, and it's going to affect all of the geometry around it. So it's kind of like pseudo sculpting. So we are just going to select that edge again with proportional editing on, and just give our leaf a little shape. And I'm going to go into this one again and make another vert so we can. So then we have a few different leaves, and we have these shapes different. So I think that's good. So we have these 3 leaves that are good, and they'll be doing. We'll be populating our leaf cluster with it. So right now you could put these on this tree, but it's going to look a little weird. Because there aren't any branches, and the tree's going to look really empty because there's not a lot of geometry in here, right? These are all just big branches, and there are no twigs or anything. So that's what we're going to make right now. So now you have your leaf mesh set up. We are going to make a twig for it. So we're going to add, and once again, it doesn't matter on the geometry for this because we're not going to save it. We're just using it to bake. So we're going to scale this thing down on the X and Y axis. And Z. And now we're going to go in and just use the same trick we used for the tree. And so now one thing you have to remember before you start doing your extrusion, it gets really weird if you haven't applied your scale or rotation. So we need to apply the rotation and scale. The shortcut for the apply menu is Control A. So you hit Control A and bring up with your object selected, hit Control A and then apply your rotation and scale. Now when we go back into edit mode, it will extrude properly. So we're going to do the same thing we did with the tree. And make ourselves a branch. One thing we're going to do a little differently, and you can use this to do trees too. I'll show you what I'm about to do. It's another option. So now we're going to go into Edge Select. We've already got that top cap selected. We're going to hold Alt and select these lines to select the whole loop. And then we're going to do the same thing on the bottom. Hold Shift and Alt and then select this bottom. So now we have all of those selected. We're going to mark a seam there, and now we have this ready for unwrapping. So let's go, where did it go? Oh, there it is. Alright, so if we select everything, unwrap, we have this nice thing here, but we're going to change the image. So we need to make a material for this, and we've already got the material made. We just need to apply it. So if we go into our shading window and then select our cylinder, let's go ahead and change this to branch. Labeling things is important because you'll forget what they are when you're if you haven't been in a project for a while, or if it gets really complex. So we're going to call these okay. So we have everything all labeled up. So if we select our branch here, and then we're just going to go select our material that we made. So now our branch is all but the problem is, let's go see, it's really big, so we want to give that bark a little more detail. Okay, so now we have this branch here, and then to make the other little branches where the leaves are going to grow, I'm just going to make sure I'm in the front view here, and I'm going to just use this guy and just kind of line it up. And we're going to do that again. And we're going to do this a few times until we have a branch that looks kind of how we want. Once again, I'm just doing this for example's sake, so we're going to go quick and dirty with it. Okay, so now we have a branch, and now we have these leaves, and we want to put these leaves on this branch. So the first thing I'm going to do is just select everything and join it. It'll make this easier. So now if I go into edit mode, I only want the leaves to grow on the branches and not on the main stem. I only want to grow on the twigs, not the branch. That's a better way to put it. So now I'm going to set up some vertex groups. So we'll say, and we're just going to select the end of each branch. And now if you hit, since they're all the same size, this will work. So if you hit Control plus on the keyboard, it's going to select the next set of geometry adjacent to whatever you have selected. So with the end of each branch selected, it doesn't have anywhere to go towards the end, so it's just going to select down the branch. So if I hold Control and hit plus, it's going to select the next loop, and then the next, and then the next. Now I don't want them to grow all the way down this branch, so I'm just going to go, we're going to go into wireframe mode, and I'm just going to select where I want them to grow now, and you'll see what I'm doing here in just a second. So once you have the places you want the leaves to grow selected, now you need to go over into your panel over here, your properties panel, and click on object data properties. Now under here you have a mode called, or a window, vertex groups. So we're going to add this group, what we have selected. So whenever you hit plus with what you have selected, it's going to put it in this group. So we're going to call this group leaf. You can call it leaf generation. Leaf weight would make more sense. So now we have a weight set of 1, and we're going to go ahead and assign that. So now we have this vertex group. So if I deselect that, no matter what I have selected anywhere in the world, even if you break up this mesh, these vertices will still be in this vertex group. And you hit select, boom. So now we got our groups. We don't want this selected. Okay, whatever. So we have our spot here for our leaves. Now what we're going to do is go back out of there. We have to do one more thing too. We have all of our leaves here. We need to take these leaves and put them into a collection. So if you select all of your leaves, hit M, it's going to move them to a collection, and we want a new collection, and we're just going to call this leaves. Okay, so now we have our branch here, and we're going to add a particle system, a hair system to this, but instead of hair, we're going to grow leaves. So under particle system over here in the properties panel, you're going to add a new system, and we'll just call it leaves, whatever. And we want a hair generator. Now we don't need that many. We probably only need, what, 50 leaves on our branch. You don't want to get it too dense, otherwise you won't see your tree. It'll just be a big blob of green. So we're going to click and turn on advanced so we have some rotation. Now here's what we're going to do. So down where we made that vertex group before, where we weighted it, we're going to go down to vertex groups, and for density we're going to select those weights. And now the emitter will only grow where we had that vertex group weighted. So now it's just hair, right? And it's just strands. It looks like crap. So to fix that and put the leaves on there instead, we're going to go to the render tab, and now it says render as path. So we're going to go render it. You could pick an object if you just had one object here, but we're going to use a collection. So we use multiple leaves. So we're going to render a collection, and then we go select our collection, and we have leaves. So now we have our leaves populating our branch, but we have a problem. The origin for these leaves isn't at the bottom, so they're growing in the middle of the branch. So let's go back into these leaves, and if you hold shift and right click, it'll move the 3D cursor to wherever you click. So we're going to shift and right click and put the 3D cursor there, and then we are going to set the origin to the 3D cursor, and we're going to do that on all of these. And then one other thing I want to do is shade smooth. Okay, so now we have our leaves on our cluster. They should be populating a little bit better. We're going to move our camera so we get a good shot of this, because we're going to bake through. We're going to use this to bake a plane for a leaf cluster. So we have our leaves here now. I'm not super happy with them. Let's see how they look. In engine rate, we don't have a ton. There aren't enough, and they're too small. And so let's just play with a little. They look too regular. So let's play with a couple options here. So let's up it to the generation. We'll say like 70, and now we can use the length to grow them out a little bit. But now we want to do a few things. So if you click advanced here, it'll let you mess with rotation here. So we're going to mess with rotation. We're going to randomize it, and now you can pull your phase and rotate your leaves until you have them kind of till you're happy with them, basically. We will randomize a little bit, and we're going to randomize the scale as well. So under here, under render, we can change the scale, but we can also randomize the scale, so it gives us a few different size leaves. Looks a little more natural. Alright, so now we have our leaves here on this cluster. I'm going to go ahead and apply this particle, because if we try to bake it, it won't bake. So we're going to apply this particle system, and then we're going to go get rid of the particle system that we made on our tree so it doesn't double up. So now we have this, we have all of these leaves, so we're just going to go select all these leaves and hit Control J to join them together. And then we're going to put them on the branch, and we're going to hit Control J and join all that together. So now we have our branch cluster. So right now, as it stands, this looks great, and if we were to use this to populate our tree, it would look fantastic and look really, really real. But we're already at 34,000 triangles, right? So already too high for game use. We can do it just so you can see, because it does look really, really good. Let me move the origin down a little bit. Okay. Okay, so now if we were to go into here and do the same thing we did before, so we're going to go into vertex mode. You know what? Let's go ahead and apply our subdivide. Okay, so we're going to select the end of each of these branches. And we're going to select down to there, and we are going to make that into a vertex group, and we are going to call this group cluster weight. So now we're going to go add a particle system into our tree, and we're going to make it hair, and we're going to tell it to only grow on the clusters. And then we are going to render it out as an object, and we are going to pick the object of branch. Okay, so now we have branches all over this thing, but there are too many and they're too small. So let's lower this down to like let's say 250, and then let's scale them up, randomize that scale. We're also going to do the rotation. and we're going to randomize the phase so they look a little more natural. So now if we go look at our tree in rendered mode, let's add an HDRI so you can kind of see what's going on, lighting better. Takes it a second to load. Alright, so now if you look in, you have a tree. Looks nice and populated with leaves. Ooh. And they look pretty good, but if we were to apply this, it would be like a million faces, a million triangles. It's too much. So we are not going to do the particle generation that way. What we're going to do instead is bake this cluster onto a plane and then set up an opacity map for it, and then we'll use that cluster to put on here. Actually, we might make a couple, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to save this for now. Let's get rid of this particle system because we don't need it. Okay, we're going to save our project, and in the next video I will show you how to bake this out.